Victor Dandridge, Hardworking Man in Comics here with a very special vlog post. Okay, so craziest thing, I'm super embarrassed by this one, but it's so true, and transparency is everything. So I want to give you guys that story because it's real. Okay, so last month in August, I launched a Patreon for the very first time. I'm trying Patreon as a platform. Super excited about it, by the way. Definitely check that out. Patreon.com/Hardworking Man in Comics, HWMIC to be specific. But one of the special features that we're offering to 2 tiers is Book of the Month, where we will give you a free digital read of one of the Vantage In-House library titles. Now, based on timing, I thought it would be a little bit too on the nose to start with The Samaritan, considering that I just did a whole conversation about the Sly Stone movie Samaritan. So I wanted to kind of go off that path a little bit and pick another early feature. And I thought, what better way to start than Origins Unknown, Point of Authority? Specifically because while it is one of the oldest stories that I've had, running around in my noodle for a while, it's the first one, or one of the first, to get a sequel by way of Point of Authority Family Ties. Books 1 and 2 are available, so definitely check out vantageinhouse.com to get your copies if you don't already. But I wanted to start with that one, and it's a fun story, just family dynamic, all kinds of cool stuff to it. But part of this whole Patreon tier thing is it's not just a matter of you getting the book. I want to share some of the process behind the scenes things that go along with how this book was made. So first things first, what am I going to share? The script. And so as I get ready to do that, I see on the digital timestamp that it says that this particular story was written, typed up, January 31st, 2012. It's 10 years old. What? 10 years old? 10 years old. It's crazy. So as I'm sitting here going through this, I'm like, this thing is 10 years old. I missed celebrating the 10-year anniversary of that story. But then clearly, with it being the second story of the Origins Unknown series, Breaking the Habit being the first, I'm like, well, that's definitely 10 years old. What about the third one, Somewhere I Belong? Is that 10 years old too? Did I miss that? Yeah, I did. At the end of May, Somewhere I Belong celebrated 10 years of being out into the world. So silly that I totally missed this. I mean, 2012 was a huge production year for Vantage In-House Productions. It is the year that The Trouble with Love came out, and we did celebrate 10 years of that. It's also the year that 8 Minutes came out, and we kind of celebrated that one again late because I forgot. I forgot that that time period had come, and this is what happens when you get into the mix of creating. Sometimes you forget those benchmarks. So I'm really kind of egg on the face embarrassed that I forgot Origins Unknown, the sophomore piece. They always say the middle child, you forget those. I'm sorry, it's true. And that's what this is. And so I wanted to take a second to make this video to kind of highlight Origins Unknown, its creation, and why it's been important to the shared universe structure of Vantage In-House Productions. Okay, so starting off, everyone knows that we started Vantage In-House with The Samaritan. That's the first book to come out, not the first one that was written for Vantage In-House. Trivia question, do you know the first story that was written for Vantage In-House Productions to come out? I don't know if you do. Let's find out. Comment below if you do, and I might send you something. I don't know. It could happen. I will remember to do that, though. Okay, so we have The Samaritan. We've got a couple issues of that coming, but I got to diversify. I need something else. I want to, put some more stories out there. And so I reach out to Jacob Newell, who I had met in the Dayton area. He was working with some local creators there, and he wanted to get some more work out. And I'm like, hey, I got this 8-page story. You want to jump on? Let's go. And Jacob jumped on, and it was with Breaking the Habit. And again, if you are familiar with any sort of, rock groups of the late 90s, early 2000s, these names probably kind of resonate. Hey, wait, isn't there a song? Maybe. I don't know the legalities of doing that, so I just did it. But yeah, Breaking the Habit is how we started, and it's great. Sci-fi piece, very fun. It's got the cliffhanger ending, which becomes the hallmark of Origins Unknown, which has been the thing that I think both makes it unique as a product, but also might hurt it as a product, but we will talk about that. But yeah, we start off with that, and it was a lot of fun. We released it as a weekly webcomic. Every week we're putting up a new page. I think it was on the vip.blogspot.com dot webcom, something like that. I mean, it was 10 years ago. If I couldn't remember the book, I can't remember the website. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll find it and I'll put a link if it's still, is it still active? We will see. But yeah, we put that stuff up like one a week, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So much fun that like almost immediately we started again, because this would have been, oh man, we would have started like shortly after the first like 1 year anniversary of Vantage In-House in 2011, right after I came back from New York. So that would have been maybe like November or so. So yeah, like literally as we're finishing up that first story, I'm writing Point of Authority. And that one, I mean, again, Jacob jumped right in, handled it, and it was amazing. Again, so much so that when we were releasing them on an individual basis of pages, we jumped right into, Somewhere I Belong. Now, the thing that makes Somewhere I Belong very special to me was it was the first story that I had written with a female protagonist. And, you start off with this boys' club of titles where you've got The Samaritan, clearly male-centric storytelling. You've got Breaking the Habit. You've got Point of Authority, all very male-centric stories. Somewhere I Belong featuring Gala, yeah, I'm not going to show you that yet, definitely kind of changed the game a little bit. And it became kind of a focal point in terms of how we promoted it. Because, again, wanting to diversify, tell different types of stories. We were already coming at something different. Samaritan is a very mature title. Origins Unknown is very teen-centric, so we're getting difference in voice, but we want to showcase something else. And that's kind of how we did this. We actually did it where when we went to print, each feature story got its own cover. In fact, I've got a copy of that like right here. So check this out. So these were the original covers for these stories. This is kind of how we promoted it online. And again, when we went to print, like the main feature of the Breaking the Habit story was that cover with that story in it, and each one kind of worked. But we started to lean a little bit more towards the Somewhere I Belong cover because, again, with it being female centric and one of the only books on my roster that became really important. And so that was something that we kind of like, really kind of pushed as much as we could or knew how at the time. But it still wasn't a huge selling point. Like it wasn't a bestseller under any circumstance. And as I got better as a publisher, as a writer, graphic designer, it hit me that maybe that wasn't the strongest cover, right? Like it's not the strongest cover design. I mean, if you look at them, they're decent. Like they give you something. You've got a focal point of image. You've got the logo involved. It's got decent graphic design principles at play, but it still just wasn't quite the thing. And so I figured maybe let's redesign it, right? Let's try it again. And that's when we got this cover, which is probably the most recognizable cover that I've done for a lot of different reasons. I mean, this is one that like it's so funny. So many people actually thought it was Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. Like no joke. I've actually gotten that multiple times, and because of that recognition, I think people are like, "Oh, this is interesting." They gravitate to it. I will take that. I do not mind that at all. Miss Frizzle rocks. But with this redesign, it also put us in an interesting sort of place. Like, okay, now we're putting this big focal point on the Origins Unknown series. How does that play into everything else? Like, does it connect? Does it, create a synergy, a system even that you're supposed to read these books in? It was the first time that this had ever really kind of come up because all the times that we had ever promoted the books, they were all very individualized. But now we're putting a very specific focus on this one, trying to boost the sales and intentions of it. And so we kind of determined that in a reading order, if there was sort of a timeline, this one would kind of come first. You could read Origins Unknown first and then kind of go from there and hit other stories. And it was kind of interesting because, we're talking at the time of us figuring this out, we had Samaritan, obviously. By that point, we had The Trouble with Love. And I think we actually had The Kinderguardians out as well. So we knew Kinderguardians had a place at the end. Weren't really sure exactly which one came first between The Samaritan and Trouble with Love, though we did figure that out. But Origins Unknown could definitely start. I mean, it's Origins, right? That's where you would start at something, the origin story. And we would promote it as this nice little gateway entry to Vantage In-House Productions. If you've never read my work before, you can try these. And it's not, big, heavy storylines. They're short, like anthology-style cliffhangers. So it gives you a feel for how I write. And if you like it, you can pick up one of the other series. Like we had a plan that, with this series that this is so crazy because It's not exactly the way that this has worked out, but this is how, production and evolution occurs. We had the plan that we were going to tell Origins Unknown stories in two parts, right? So we had this first one, volume one of Who, and it features, Breaking the Habit, Point of Authority, Somewhere I Belong. And then we were going to put it to a vote as to which one of those was going to get a sequel. We never did the vote. Ironically, Point of Authority is what has actually gotten its sequel first. I will say that there's another one that is getting a sequel. It's in the works right now. But then we were going to have a second volume that was going to feature something else. A couple of villainous style characters. I mean, obviously, Origins Unknown features predominantly shout outs to some hero type, structures. We were going to play with a little bit more of the anti-hero, almost villainous sort of characters for the second half of it, which we did. That's the one that features Pursuit of Happiness, No One Believes Me, and I Make Her Say. Again, if you are a fan of certain music genres, those names will resonate and kind of go, oh, I think I know where that's from. And you do. Wink, wink, nudge. So again, I'm super proud of the fact that this book has been around for this long, right? It's kind of amazing. Again, so silly that I forgot, but it's one of those things where as a title can change and grow even after production, it showcases how when you put that final stamp, you send it to print, it's not over. Things can happen that kind of reshape, reframe, and recontextualize what a story or project can even be. And Origins Unknown is definitely that. I think that's one of the biggest showcases that I can make about this particular series is how it has changed. Even in actual production, it has physically become something more than it ever was. I remember pitching this concept. I was at a show in 2004, and a buddy of mine who currently works at Marvel, I was telling him about it, like, oh, I've got this story idea and I want to do this and da 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 da. And, to think that just in a couple years, I did it. Like I had it, from thought to fruition, it happened. And it was its own sort of, accolade by being able to have a thought, come out with it. But now framing it as this building block to a shared multiverse of titles through Vantage In-House, it's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing. So I hope that you take this blunder of mine as some sort of inspiration for yourself. Do something cool, put something out, because again, 10 years from now, you'll never know where it will stand, where it'll be, and how it could actually be the building blocks to something way bigger than you ever thought. Now, I will leave you with this little tease. As you guys know, last year I signed a first look deal with Aha Media. And yes, Origins Unknown is a part of that deal. So who knows? We might actually see something kick off through the Origins Unknown brand. And if it does, I would love to know which story would you like to see? If you got to put your pick in, if you got to pick your top 3 out of the 6, which ones would you make into other media? Whether that's a movie, TV show, animation, a video game, I don't know. What would you like to see happen? But as we're doing this week we're celebrating 10 years of Origins Unknown. If you've never read it, we've got links for you guys. Definitely pull it from Indie Planet. They got the trade paperback. We can send it to you ASAP. Like it'll be print on demand. It'll go from them to you and into your collection. And if you find me at a show, bring it with you and I will sign it absolutely for free because I love you guys. And help us celebrate Origins Unknown turning 10. So late in the game. I'm Victor Dandridge, Hardest Working Man in Comics, saying thank you guys for your time and energy. Keep sharing, keep reading, keep creating, keep Vantage In-House. Keep it. Because we want you to. Like, absolutely. We want you to have it, keep it, make it a part of your collection forever. Love you guys. Bye!